biggest thing I had last year was inconsistency in tires.
The S13, the one that my RB used to be in. Where is that at?
Can we talk about the next topic? I'm just kidding.
Why?
No, it's not as good of a car as my Vet is in any capacity. Just
how many times?
I'm sorry.
I said 240s and tin cans. They suck.
I drive a C5 Corvette. As of now, the first dog box front mounted quick change C5 Corvette in the world that I'm aware of.
So I had an idea after the podcast that maybe we could get some of you guys on the podcast. After 40 plus episodes, I've come to realize that don't have to be a big person to have some pretty interesting and cool stories. This can get very complicated, so we have to have some type of organization to it. Therefore, it will be through email only. All you have to do is just email your drift resume. Tell me a little bit about yourself. Tell me what you drive, what parts you have on your car, where you've been, any cool, like, rough stories that we would possibly get into on the podcast. The key to it is, in order for me to see it, you have to put the subject as drift resume. If you have some interesting stories and you're able to make it down here to Tennessee, then we can work it out for you to be on the podcast. I think that's a great way for you guys to get some more interesting stories, but a lot better ways for us to connect and actually build a genuine community. Let me know what you guys think about that in the comments, and go ahead and email me at thecircleofdrift@gmail.com. But that's it. Let's get back to it. Welcome back to the #1 drift podcast on YouTube. I am Dawson, and
I am Wes.
Hey, you got it. Someone finally got it, like, on the dot. All right. So before we get into it, look below you. If that subscribe button is still red, why don't you go ahead and click it? That way you're subscribed, because still about 50-60% of you are not. And I don't know why you wouldn't be if you're sitting here fucking watching. So merch, as you can see, we have new merch. Samurai RB25. This was actually AI generated. I just told you this off camera, but not fully AI generated, obviously, like the car and the words and stuff. But the Samurai in the background, 100% AI. So if you guys like it, go down to the link and grab it. It's on circleofdrift.com. If you want 10% off, use code Samurai10. But that's all I have for the announcements. So here's Wes. I'll let him introduce himself. He was episode 5. Yeah. If you've been here long enough.
Guest. Am I the first repeat guest?
First. Well, I guess Kyler came on to be a co-host, kind of, but
anyway, my name is Wesley Cloud. I am a driver in the East 10 Drift Formula Drift Pro-Am series, chasing my Pro Spec license, participating in a few different shootout series as well, just trying to get my name out there, get my driving ability up as much as possible. I drive a C5 Corvette right now. It is, as of now, the first dog box front mounted quick change Corvette, C5 Corvette in the world that I'm aware of. So we're still kind of fighting through that, trying to figure that out. But I am doing everything possible to be as professional and create a professional team that I can. Really trying to make as big of movements and as big of jumps every time I go to the track as possible. So that's kind of a little bit about me. I'm the guy that's really there taking it seriously, to the point that I know some of my crew probably make fun of me, because I mean I'm just all business about all this stuff. I mean,
you're very competitive.
Yeah, no, so. I'm there to make something happen. I got into drifting to be a competitive driver. I know that's kind of backwards from a lot of people. They get into drifting to have fun. I got into drifting knowing that I wanted to go bang doors with the best of the best. Whatever I had to do to get there is what I was going to do.
Just got that itch.
Yeah, man. I planned it. You know, I mentioned that in my previous episode, where everything was a step made to be a competitive driver, and that's what I continue to do. So that's a little bit about me, and I guess let's talk. Let's have a good time.
Yeah. We got a little bit to get into. We won't kind of go over the same stuff we went over last episode. So if you guys do want to get the main rundown on him, go back and watch that one again, episode 5. But the first thing I want to get into for the viewers that don't really know you, haven't seen you in the first episode, give a rundown on your Corvette.
Yeah, so like I kind of mentioned, it's a C5 Corvette with the, as far as I know, somebody can probably correct me in the comments, but I tried to.
There's going to be some kind down there in the
tried
comments
to make
that's going to do it.
Tried to make sure, as far as I know, it's the first front-mounted 4-speed dog box. It's a G-Force GSR, all the way at the front with a QuickTime SFI bell housing. So it's, FD legal and everything, with a custom made drive shaft back to a Winters or actually Race Tech Services built. Shout out to Race Tech Services. Race Tech Services built unbreakable quick change differential in some beautiful gold FDF Race Shop quick change mounts, also the first of its kind. I was able to talk with Josiah at PRI. Really, really great guy, really great company.
He is
more than willing to help you out. And so I came to him with, hey, I want to do this. I think it was a couple days after we were back from PRI, he sent me the digital rendering of what he had designed for me. So
dude, quick as fuck.
Yeah, and he's like, what color do you want them powder coated? So they're gold. I love gold parts.
You don't have FDF, grab it.
Yeah, I mean, FDF is right now the only reason that car is what it is. I mean, I wouldn't have been able to do the quick change.
The Corvettes really need FDF, especially the C5.
Yeah, and obviously the angle kit and the handbrake and just all the hard parts, FDF, and will continue to be. And I, even through that, have developed a relationship with Josh Gunby of FabMech Industries. You know him from Josiah's current crazy C6 build. He's building that engine, now building my engine that's coming up here in the future. Also working with Andrew Shorkey, just got his Pro Spec license last year at the Great Lakes Pro-Am. Elliot Rose, you might have seen him slaying out at Grid Life this past week or two ago. So we've got some really, really great drivers together on that team that we're working with, really trying to grow all of our programs simultaneously. But so we have a lot more power coming. Currently that Corvette is on still a stock bottom end LS1. I know a lot of people don't believe that.
Yeah, he just came off of a competition weekend and we got that in the notes. So that's coming up later in the episode.
And I get asked all the time at competitions, what's under the hood? Because, not trying to elevate myself, I do believe that I drive beyond what's under the hood, so to speak. I've been able to keep that car up with way faster cars, way better prepared cars, just in the engine capacity. And it's been fun to drive, to make myself drive harder. Yeah. But I'm definitely ready for that more power that's coming. But other than that, as far as the car goes, I mean, it's a very, very simple car. The stock bottom end LS1, really good valve train, a lot of fuel, a lot of timing, really good hard parts on the car. Thank you to FDF. Really good tires, GT Radial, SX2 RS.
Stiffen up that fiberglass.
Yeah, I mean, just everything on the car is easy to work on. It works well. It performs. I pulled out a 4th place at this past round. I battled for 3rd with Tyler Berry. He was well deserving of that win. I just simply wasn't able to keep up in the chase. If maybe you'll play.
He's a damn good driver.
Oh, he's an amazing driver. And also, again, thank you, Tyler, for letting me borrow the gear to put in my quick change that even allowed me to continue. Because actually, I lost 3rd gear in my GSR. I didn't lose 3rd gear. It just wouldn't go into 3rd gear. We think maybe a pin broke or something like it. It doesn't grind. It doesn't anything. It just doesn't go into gear.
Yeah.
But all the other gears are there. So we made my 1-2 shift my drift gears, and so it was a little bit harder to leave the line, but we made it work. And so it's
how did the I want to know about the winners. Did that really drastically change, like how
you need a winner's quick change in your car, specifically the RTS quick change? It is so nice. I mean, I have a spooled diff in my S chassis, as you may know. I built an R200V diff with a spool with a Pathfinder ring and pinion geared, so it's got bigger teeth, a little bit stronger. And that differential, obviously, when you have no give, there's not a carrier, there's not a welded anything to even have any torsional twist. The ring gear is mounted to that spool. And so when you come off throttle, 100% lock in the rear, it feels predictable in drift. But I've been driving the C5 for the longest time on the factory clutch type LSD. And, it felt so good, I think, just because the Corvette is what it is, and it's otherwise just a really good car. It felt so good that I didn't ever know how much it was holding me back until I put this new diff in. When I tell you the grip level increased monumentally, I mean...
Oh, I could expect that.
With the factory LSD, in multiple cases, I was softening my dampers all the way, removed rear sway bar, really just going down in tire pressure, just to try to get the rear end of the car to stay planted. Yeah. Because every time I was coming off throttle, I think it was allowing that differential just enough time, just enough opening time to really kind of make it wonky. And I just had started driving around that for so long. And I went out and tested this car for the first time at Beach Bend with my good friend Drake Burris. Shout out to Drake and Mark for that track rental that really came in clutch. I went out and tested it, and the first time I tried to go ride the bank at Beach Bend, the car was like, no.
Just didn't want to do it.
Yeah, I was like, wait a minute. So I'm actually finding now that I'm taking grip out of the car in the rear in order to...
Just because of the quick change.
Just because, and I may be attributing that wrong. I did move a little bit of weight around, obviously the factory... Yeah. The way that is configured,
what was the weight difference in the winners and the stock LSD?
I guess I don't really know to the pound. But if I remember correctly, I did math when I did know them to the pound, and I tried to figure out like, okay, if I remove this weight here and add this weight here and try to figure that out. By the end of it, it should realistically be within a percentage or two of factory, as far as weight distribution, because the GSR transmission, I mean, you can pick it up. It's light. It's really light. And my thinking was, the torque tube and everything is almost as heavy as the transmission, really. Yeah. And so by the time it all shakes out, it feels so good. I was unsure because it is untested waters. I was doing things, that haven't been done, and just couldn't be more pleased. I mean, really, just a beautiful, beautiful product. And being able to change that final drive around, again, the only reason.
So how do you know necessarily? I know you can plug the computer up to it, but what are the indicators that tell you need to change to a certain gear?
Okay, so there's no computer for that for me. I am going off of
just directly
feel wheel. I mean, we have target wheel speeds for each gear, obviously, based on what the track is, what we're doing. We have target wheel speeds, and then we can move those gears around to make that gear that target wheel speed. So for instance, this past weekend, I lost my third gear. My third gear for the gear sets that I have, I need to get more gear sets. I'm just kind of learning what all comes with that. But the gear sets I had meant that third gear for the track that we were at was probably my best wheel speed gear. When I lost third gear, we had to go find a gear set from Tyler and make my second gear what third gear was. And only because of a quick change were we able to do that. So I lost, I didn't have a first gear anymore. We had to make my first gear was what my second gear was, and then my second gear was what my third gear was, and so on. So it made me leave the line slower, but I was able to compete. And having that extra.
What did you say your first gear top out speed was? It's like 70 miles an hour.
It ended up being, I think, 72 miles an hour was my first gear after that gear change. So it was I had to slip the clutch really sluggish to leave the line, but it worked. And just being able to move, even if it's in a situation where it's to save your ass, it's so nice to have, because without that, you're done.
Of course, you're fucking toast after that. Okay, so explain what all kind of changes, not necessarily if there is the part of the chassis you had to make, but installing the quick change and all of that stuff.
It was actually way more simple than you would think.
Really?
I thought that it would be harder.
Well, there are a lot of videos and stuff on YouTube moving the transmission to the front and everything. So I feel like that would be easy to.
I just thought it would be harder to fit. I thought, well, the center of, if anybody's watching that knows what the underside of a Vette looks like, you have this little skid plate thing that goes over.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So I knew how wide that was, and I knew how wide my transmission was. So I measured ear to ear, widest point of the transmission, and then I just stuck my tape measure up there. And I was like, I don't know about this. And so really it only,
with that,
sorry about that.
No, you're good.
It really only came down to cutting where those bolts for that skid plate would be. Yeah. Cut those ears off, and it fits. It goes in there and it fits.
Boom. There you go. And now you got it.
Hold on. There's a lot of work to do that. Because once you do that, there's not a factory exhaust part in the world that fits your car anymore, because you don't have a Corvette anymore. Yeah. So the routing of everything's wrong
at that point.
Yeah. And the tabs on the SFI bell housing has a ring around it, and it sticks out farther. And so there's not even factory headers. Yeah.
Shit.
So what we ended up doing was buying shorty headers, which I would not want to do. Buying shorty headers, and
explain why shorty headers.
I just wanted long tube headers. I just for better flow and power. I don't know enough about it to know if it actually truly has what power for power. I like the way they sound better. I like the way they sound better. I like that race car noise. But we had to buy the shorties and then still modify them, because the factory type collector, whatever you call it, the flange, was again contacting the bell housing. So it was either clearance the bell housing, which obviously is not okay for an SFI rated bell housing, clearance the bell housing, or chop the ends of them off, and we ended up welding on V-bands up a little bit further. And so if you look at my exhaust, it comes around the bell housing, and it's removable in that center section, and then we just did straight actually under the axles in the rear. So it creates problems that you don't previously have as far as space, and if you, depending on what you've done with other lines like fire suppression lines or things like that, I know some people in Corvette chassis, they run them kind of up under the torque tube, because it's a good place to put it if you don't have an exhaust and a drive shaft. So it's just, I would say, if you're thinking about it, if you have a C5, go for it. I mean, if you have the budget for that transmission and that differential, and you want to keep that chassis, all the parts are now available to make that happen. And it's really, truthfully, not that hard. My crew chief Brennan Daniels, the competition drift expert within my team, so to speak, he's really
a genius.
Yeah, I mean, he's really the reason that car came together. But he said himself too, like it's almost uncomfortably easy, because we were just waiting on, what's going to be the big problem.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, but
so
because Josiah designed my mounts perfectly, and everything else was an off-the-shelf part. Yeah, thanks FDF. Everything else was relatively an off-the-shelf part, except for the drive shaft, which making a drive shaft is not rocket science.
Yeah.
Kleinerd's drive shaft in Nashville, custom drive shaft in like 2 days. No problem. Yeah, no problem. So yeah, I mean, it's easily the best thing I've done to the car, and to be able to add power or to whatever in the future.
And it also makes
that drivetrain's good. Yeah, that drivetrain is good. And it's going to go over to the C6 chassis that I'm hopefully building in the very near future, also with FabMac, and we'll talk about that more, because that requires so much more planning and so much more.
Yeah.
And
I'm sure you're still kind of, your head's spinning on which ways to go with that as well.
Oh yeah. I mean, there's decisions in every avenue that you look. I mean, it's crazy when you get into this level, which I say this level, we're not even in the top levels of Formula Drift. We're not even in the top levels of the sport, but the amount of planning and the amount of foresight that you have to have is crazy. And the guys that I'm running with now are everybody there. I think I said this before. Everybody there is a class act. Every team is set up to have the potential to go, as all the way.
Yeah.
Everybody's got their rigs, their pits, their teams, their everything figured out. And so if you don't make sure that you're taking those, miles ahead steps to plan your next year, plan your next 2 years.
If you're not doing that, it's insane, because so many people have paved the path for that.
Right.
And I feel like it should just
be.
The
pattern is there. You can see what needs to be done pretty easily if you just pay attention. Yeah. And if you're not willing to do that stuff, then you really can't succeed. So, we end up working all off season, all season, not a time of the year where I'm not thinking about drifting. Yeah. It's just.
So in what ways from last season were you not prepared that you made sure of you were prepared for this season?
I tapped on the table again. Because I just, that gets me excited.
Silas.
No. I did a lot of things differently. There were instances, one of the biggest thing I had last year was a inconsistency in tires. I didn't have the foresight to buy enough tires at one time to make sure that when I needed more, they weren't out of stock. And so this season being a spec series, being everybody's on the GT Radial SX2 RS, Tire Stacks, beautiful company, is partnering with the series. They're doing our trackside service. A lot of
people out this year.
Man, Tire Stacks is the best. And specifically Frank Brearley from Tire Stacks. He has helped me out personally, helps all of us out with anything we need with tires. And so having that alone has eliminated the problem that I had with tires. So that's a big change. Buying plenty of tires at a time. We went through 34 tires this past weekend.
What's the biggest order you've placed so far?
100.
Oh, okay. That's
it's not unreasonable, but it's unreasonable, when you just say it out loud. So that
cocky motherfucker. I'm just kidding.
So the tires thing is a big change. We made sure that all that was good. The other main thing I think is just all of the little things that we learned that we could have done better. I mean, all of the little things we fixed. There was not one moment where we were looking for something where we weren't sure about what time something was happening. We've
as far as extra parts and stuff wise, like tools and all that stuff, what about that?
Yeah, so
I'm sure that was more or less the main problem.
We have our gear sets in these pretty little boxes that are labeled with teeth and ratios. Oh,
so
it's great.
cute.
No, it's so nice. It really is.
There's something that's very satisfying about that. I mean, you just walked into my shop. Like I keep my shop fairly neat, and it makes working on the car 10 times easier.
And comfort for the team, because we're constantly kind of evolving as far as, we've gotten bigger. We traveled with just kind of a minimal crew, so to speak, last year, but there was a person for every job this year or this season. And so we've gotten a bigger awning, we've gotten, fans, and make sure everybody stays comfortable, larger coolers, more snacks, more drinks, making sure that, everybody can do their job the best that they can possibly do, because it's my job as the, I guess you could call it CEO type position of the team, to make sure that everybody has their tools or they're not their literal tools, but they're tools to do their job. Yeah. And it's
that way you don't have to stress about it.
Right. And I cannot thank my crew enough. Like, they are all so good. Like,
I feel like a lot of drivers say that, and that just really goes over people's heads. Y'all don't understand how much goes into this shit.
You don't understand. Insane. I didn't have one moment because, we had back-to-back battles or I had a couple situations where in one specific time I qualified really well, had a bye run and a battle directly after that. Yeah. And just the speed at which they're moving, the sense of urgency that they're all acting with. I mean, you would think that these guys are all working for their dreams. I mean, seriously, it's unbelievable. Crazy. And so,
which it kind of is. Like,
yeah. I mean, everybody has a stake in it. I think that's important too. I've tried to always make sure that I structure the events, structure the goals of the team to make sure that everybody has fulfillment. I think it's important to make sure that the driver's not getting all the glory. I don't think that's a good thing, because I could not do this stuff alone. Like I couldn't even try to.
Hell no.
No. So
you see Cash kind of do it in FD, but he still has to rely so much on people.
Yeah. It's people in places are the most valuable thing in drifting. I mean, having a spotter is one thing, having a mechanic is one thing, but when you're going through 34 tires and you don't have 34 wheels, you got to have those tires and wheels taken places. And my good friend Justin Napier, Wes Willie, both of those guys worked so hard on my tires. I mean, they were sweating both days because it's Atlanta heat, and tires and wheels going back and forth, and I had to bring my scrubs back, and just constant movement. And
is that something you're going to work towards, getting a tire changer?
Well, for the way it's set up now with Tire Stacks, they do it, and it's included in the tire cost, and like the mounting and the disposal.
Yeah, eat that shit up.
Yeah, it's the best. But it again requires a person and a place to do that job, to take the wheels and tires. And if I didn't have those extra 2 crew guys, my spotter's got to go do it, or my crew chief's got to go do it, or I mean, obviously I'm not going to ask my wife to go carry tires, but somebody has to go do it.
Yeah. And so you have somebody, or I guess a couple people there for like the miscellaneous shit alone.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
That's just things that I learned from last year that, like, you can call it lazy, you could call it whatever.
That's smart.
No, the other teams are doing it.
Yeah, exactly. So, why wouldn't you fucking do it one step ahead of them?
Other teams are doing it. And now I landed a new title sponsorship with Vortex Security, vortexsecurityfl.com, if you want to check it out. Unbelievable residential and commercial security company that they have the most advanced of, home cameras or door locks or sensors, all the way to like, they can monitor elderly people's, vital functions via an app. And
y'all want to sponsor the podcast?
Yeah,
I could use some security cameras.
But having the title sponsor that's completely behind me is opening these doors to have, a little bit more on the crew, a little bit more for, just budgets for everything. Because, that's awesome. And the only,
I was telling you a little bit off camera too when we were talking about that. It's nice to see non-car companies joining in on motorsports.
Right.
It's awesome.
Right.
Then they get a little bit more influx of a different community to their side.
Yeah, it's a different way to market. Drifting inherently is such an interesting thing to people that don't even know about it. You know, you just see what's going on. You're like, wow. And so
how the hell?
Here's a tip for you drivers out there. The money, the companies with marketing budgets are not in the motorsports industry. Mm-hmm. And I don't think I'm giving away any secrets when I say that. I mean, there are deep, like you say, there are a lot of deep pockets out there, but it's not necessarily the companies that are putting the parts on your car. Mm-hmm. And so being able to have a team, a pit setup, everything that looks, professional and clean and tidy, something that somebody's willing to partner with, that's what gets you there. That's what allows all of that. So it's like it's a circular thing.
I bet it's a lot more convenient for those types of companies too, because they don't have to put anything into it other than just throw some money his way and then let him do his job.
Right. As long as you do a good job, you're right. Like it's all it is you end up with so much more ability to grow your team just by taking these extra steps. And it's a lot of work, but it's so much worth it to have backing, to have, not just finances, but for, for lodging, for food, for travel, for whatever. It just, when you have a little bit less to worry about, it changes a lot. I mean, it really does. But I mean, otherwise for changes to our team, it's been fairly little. I want to keep Brennan as my crew chief forever. I want to keep Willie Culver as my spotter forever. I want Wes and Justin to keep coming to do all of it's perfect. I would not change. Would not change a thing. Would not change a thing. I'll do whatever I got to do to keep those guys. And I think that they want to stick around. That's the cool thing. It's like I said, everybody has a stake in it. Everybody's we're all hyped.
Well, are there any things that you didn't get the chance to improve on for this season that you wish you could have?
You can go either way with that. I still don't have any more power than last year, which I wanted to figure out. We just, things happened the way they did. And so I don't really look at that as something that I would change because it's still putting me in the position where I got to drive harder.
Yeah, of course.
And I like having a little bit of incentive.
You a better driver.
Yeah. It's forcing me to do these things that are a little bit difficult. And excuse me a second.
I feel like once you have to figure out the workarounds, that makes the good parts even easier.
Yeah, because every one of these little incremental changes, where I was driving around the clutch type LSD, put the spool in it, now it's a way better car. When I get those changes, I feel like I'm Superman in that car. It's crazy how much harder I feel like I can drive every time something happens like that. And I think if you look at the footage of some of my battles from this past weekend, and I'm just on the wall, and that's how the car feels to me. It's just such a confidence inspiring car now that let's play that. But you got to see it. It's just such a confidence-inspiring car now, even though it's a little bit lacking in power. I'll throw it in extra hard if I have to. Whatever. Yeah. So what? And we can always fix the power. We can spray it. We can whatever. Yeah. But again, I do have the bad boy coming from FabMac to where the power's
So what are some actual details of the motor that are getting changed?
Yeah. That's important. So we're working with a Dart LS Next block. Going to get bored to 431 cubic inches. Molnar Technologies forged rotating assembly, essentially. Frankenstein heads with their titanium valves. AVA dry sump, 4-stage.
Dry sump's gonna be fucking sick.
Yeah. Big old supercharger. We're back and forth. I say we. Brennan, my crew chief, and my engine builder are arguing over which supercharger I'm going to use. So we're gonna keep that quiet for right now. But it will have a supercharger. Can you say
which ones they're arguing between?
It will either be a Whipple or a Magnuson. Either probably a 2.9 or a 2650 or whatever the nomenclature between those two are. There's so many things that we've been thinking about. I can't ever keep them straight in my head anymore. I'm just the driver, guys. But yeah, so power just will not be a problem.
Take your guess in the comments. What do you think he's going to go with?
Yeah, go ahead and make your guess, and we'll see. Maybe I'll do a return third episode when I get it. We'll see who was right. But yeah, I mean that's kind of the meat and potatoes of what's going in that engine. It's essentially going to be the best engine that I could put together, and Josh Gunby is, in my opinion, the expert that I trust on the drift spec. Bad boy V8s. I mean, the engines that he's built for Josiah. Just listen to them scream, and then when you learn how long
listen to a start, go fucking get beat on, and then get shut off, and do the same thing over and over again.
And then you learn how long it's been in the car.
Yeah,
and then you're like, oh, I want one of those.
Yeah,
you know? And so that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna keep working on. Through myself and through Josiah and Andrew Shorkey and Elliot Rose, we're all going to work together to develop the most complete, most reliable, baddest engine package in drifting. And that's just what we're going to do.
Document it all.
Yep.
Oh my God. Yeah, that would be amazing for social media. But, okay, so if someone was to ask you, or you actually probably get asked this quite a bit, I'm sure, break down what it would cost to run a season similar to yours. Now, before we get too deep into the podcast, I want to stop and tell you guys, of course, about Wiring Specialties, which I've mentioned in the past. You do not like wiring, like me, I absolutely hate it. The few extra bucks for a Wiring Specialties harness might actually save you and your car, because let's face it, you might not be the best at wiring no matter what you think. So if a few extra bucks in the beginning saves you a lot in the long run, it might be worth it to check out Wiring Specialties. They have all sorts of different platforms for not only their normal wiring harness, but also their Pro Series harness as well. And Wiring Specialties is nice enough to help you guys out with a 5% off code. Just use simply Circle Adrift, and you will get to save yourself a few bucks off of that harness you so ever-loving need. Appreciate you, Wiring Specialties. Let's get back to the podcast.
Okay. If we're going like we're going like event by event, or you mean like total just number?
Just total number for the year.
I would guess you could probably run a Pro-Am season like identical to what we're doing for, I don't know, 35 or 40,000 for just a fixed expenses. I'm not really talking about things outside of, like I'm just.
Now, would you say you're taking a little bit more necessary steps to ensure some things are taken care of rather than other drivers?
No. I would say
kind of doing the same thing.
I would say everybody's pretty much doing the same thing. I mean, you have some teams that maybe have less crew, or you have some teams that maybe spend less on lodging. Maybe they're camping in their trailer at the track or something like that. I just don't have a big enough trailer to fit everybody or anything. It's just not how it's going to work.
Get in, cuddle.
Yeah. So we do Airbnbs, and we do everything we can do to cut costs, but also at the same time, I don't do anything at the expense of the comfort of my crew.
Yeah, I still want to ensure it's a fun time.
Right, because I want those guys to be able to come back and have a good night's rest, and to we eat decent food. We don't it can be done cheaper for sure.
Yeah,
it definitely can be done cheaper.
I think in the long run, if you're focused on it long term like you are, I think you kind of have to take those little incremental steps to ensure your crew is taken care of.
Yeah. I mean, you want your crew to stick around. You don't want to be finding new guys every year. You don't want to be creating a whole new flow of things. You don't want to be, making those new relationships, because the amount of trust that has to be established between a crew. I mean,
oh yeah.
And just think of for a second, like you're going to go sling your car intentionally at a wall.
A 3,000 pound fucking metal rock.
Right. And you're going to let somebody else make sure that your arm restraints are correct and your harness is in and your Hans device is clipped on. You better trust that guy. Mm-hmm. And, obviously a lot of times it's my wife doing it because she's...
Did you do the bolts check? I don't know.
Yeah. Yes. But, for the competition rounds, Brennan has been doing that. And so I'm literally sitting in the car to trust Brennan with my life.
Yeah.
Essentially. And so, that may be overplaying it a little bit, because there's all kinds of safety equipment in place to where, if one thing goes, you're probably not going to.
Yeah, there's a fallback.
But still, like the amount of trust for checking my tire pressures, torquing wheels, all that matters.
Yeah.
And so, you gotta keep your crew, gotta keep them happy, if you're going to save money, it's not where to do it. in my opinion.
Okay, so then if someone had like $10,000 less than what you had, what would you say they should put aside and save for next season or something like that?
If you had less money, I would say you probably don't travel with, 5 or 6 crew people. You just couldn't do that. You'd have to dwindle it down to an essential, crew chief / mechanic and a spotter. I think if you do that and you can, get it to where you're not getting multiple hotel rooms or a small Airbnb, or maybe you are camping in your track at the track in your trailer or in a tent, whatever. The lodging is a huge savings if you can. Not going out to eat. Bring a cooler with your hamburger meat or whatever. Bring a grill. That's definitely a good place to save some money. There's a lot of areas.
I feel like that's smart though, because a lot of people won't think about the small little things.
Oh yeah, believe me,
could say.
It matters. Like we go, we'll go to Costco, and that's where we get all of our snacks. We get these huge packs of beef jerky, huge packs of all this stuff, and it's healthy food with protein, with not just all sugar and crap, and just planning and things like that. You can save. Over the course of a season, you can save a lot of money there. I think the only thing that you really can't start trying to save money on is your fuel to get there, your entry fees. They're going to be what they're going to be. Yeah. You could argue that you could really, really, really be mindful of your tire consumption. You could really monitor your tire consumption better than I do and save a lot of money. I went through 34 tires, but they were not all the way dead. If that makes sense. We ended up with, if I counted correct, there's 12 or 14 of those that you could put back on a car. You could put back on a car and have a lap or two at some tracks, maybe 2 or 3 laps. But just that track surface was more outer zone on the driver's side, and I was killing those tires a little bit faster and riding the bank and stuff. So I was getting 2 laps dead on the driver's side tire. Dead.
Sucks.
Yeah. And the wear was perfectly even because, I have all the everything. The alignment's good, but it was just getting eaten. So you could put those back on the car instead of mounting a new set. There's all kinds of things that you can do. But I'm for practice at the next event. And I'm only doing that stuff because I have the title sponsor now, because it's worth it to use some of that finances to ensure that maybe I'll do a little bit better. Because that's going to help them. That's going to help me. That's going to help me potentially grow that deal. I need to do well, or I don't need to be there. And if I have the ability, that's the only reason. It's not because I'm just going to go and try and throw money at things, because that's not the smart thing to do. It's all actually budgeted very carefully. When I made this deal, I looked at what it was going to be, and I have a very carefully managed spreadsheet of every dollar that goes to places, so I know if it's okay to allocate some cash here. And important things are important things. Like I bought a cool shirt system. My God, that changed my life.
That's fucking amazing.
Cool shirt systems. If you're watching, please understand your product is probably the best the best thing that I've ever used. It works better than it's advertised. It's so cold almost that I had to turn it off a few times. I was just I was sitting in my car in a full fire suit, all black fire suit. It's got printing and stuff on it, but all black fire suit, black helmet, black gloves, in the sun, shivering. In the direct sun in Atlanta. I was cold, man. I was freezing cold, so I had to turn it off. But I've previously felt like I was going to have. No, I thought I was going to get a heat stroke last year. That's a big change. Get a cool shirt system. Spend the money. It's so worth it.
That relieves 50% of your stress all year long.
At least. You could. If I was having a bad day, I would seriously go home and just sit in a cool shirt. It's so nice.
It feels a sauna. We got. It
feels like you jumped in the Colorado River. It's wild. I had to. The second day, crazy. I actually I made sure. So it comes with these little endurance ice packs. And they're basically like a fancy version of a freezer pack, but it's worth it because they're leak proof and all this. Yeah. And so I put those and half of a 7-pound bag of ice. I think it's a 12 quart total capacity. So there's a gallon and a half of water, or maybe 2 gallons of water, whatever. It was way too cold. I couldn't leave it on for.
Should have left the ice out.
Yeah. So the second day I did. I put the.
Work a lot better.
Oh, it's perfect. Yeah.
Hell yeah.
No, it's perfect. But even still, you can't keep it on unless you're just burning up.
Well, of course, yeah.
I'm sure there'll be days when I keep it on longer, but that's a great thing to have.
Hell yeah. Well, not to completely jump onto a different subject, but the S13. The one that my RB used to be into. Yes, my car is getting there. I'm sorry. But where is that at? What's happening with that? What's the future plans? I know it used to be do what?
Can we talk about the next topic? I'm just kidding.
Why?
No, I don't know. That car, it's kind of just fallen by the wayside. It's not as good of a car as my Vet is in any capacity. It's got Wisefab V2 with a rack relocation, with a spooled diff, with a FD spec cage, with a fire suppression system, with all this shit. Mm-hmm. Not as good of a car. Just
how many times?
I'm sorry.
I said 240s and tin cans.
I'm sorry. I mean, okay. I have if anybody's looking, I have my S13 tattooed on my arm. I like S chassis.
Nostalgic.
I like S chassis. Right. It's just not that good anymore. It's just, I mean, and that's not true either. I mean, people still drive the wheels off of them. It's just for me, for what I want to do with it, it takes a lot more effort and more work to get those cars to
the point where it takes a certain person. Like, you have to be really into that.
Yeah,
and be able to, especially drift one nowadays.
Yeah. And if anybody wants my 240, I'm probably going to sell it soon. It's a turbo LS built T56. You know, it's a nice car.
About how much would you sell it for, you think?
I don't know. I've been back and forth on that. I kind of would just like it to sell, so like I want to, but you know, I don't know, probably 18 or 19,000.
Okay.
I think that's reasonable. Yeah. It's like, you know, it's never been wrecked. It's got like a dent in the.
Have you looked on Facebook Marketplace?
No.
It's god awful.
Yeah.
That's the reasonable price.
Okay. Well, good. So, you know, hit me up if you want it. But, yeah, I mean, Holly Terminator XCCU and fire suppression. The only thing it doesn't have is a legal FIA seat anymore.
That's fair.
You know, get a new seat.
Yeah, you'll end up getting a new seat anyways.
Yeah.
Or at least putting one you have in.
Yeah.
But, so, I have been noticing more content you've been putting out.
Yeah,
so
I've been trying to
push that really hard.
Been trying to. That's another aspect. That's something I've changed for the team. I've been trying to put things in places to where I can make a really, really good content generation side of my program. I've set my shop up with studio lights and colored lights, and you know,
he was sending me pictures and videos when he was doing it. It's fucking sick.
Yeah. I mean, I put LED lights around the lift and everything. Like it's set up to be a film studio now. For really, I want to make like TV quality content. That's what I would love to do, because I like to make the videos. I like to talk about the things that I'm doing. I like to teach people how to do it, because it's not an unattainable thing. I
have a creative fucking mind, and I have to put it somewhere.
Yeah,
so that's why this happened.
And it just depends on, you know, where my head's at for the given time. Like in the lead up to this season, I just had so much going on, and that's not really an excuse in today's world, but it's hard to make good content when your mind's not in it. And I would rather not than put out some kind of filler content. I really try to make sure that the video content specifically that I upload has some substance. You know, it actually
you find that more important than keeping the consistency?
I do. I want people to know that when I post a video that it's not just crap. Like I would just like I want to have that reputation when I show up to any track. I want people to know he's here to get something done, not just here to play and you know, not just kind of.
I feel like it also falls in whatever niche you're into. I feel like some things you get, like obviously this is more of a show. Yeah. So like a talk show, so you kind of have to keep that consistency more than anything. But
But I think most of the content that I want to make is somewhat informative or instructional or something in some way. Yeah. And to just kind of half-ass that just is not fair, because then you're not teaching it correctly, or you're not saying something. There's no value. Yeah. And I think that just the way that my brain works, I try to accumulate so much knowledge about the things that I'm interested in. And then I'm able to share that knowledge and cut people's learning curves and stuff, and then hear about it later. And I really like that. I think
I tell people, because like I handle media for people, so I tell people a lot, your failures are your best content, because it's like that's what you learn from. That's what everybody else is going to learn from.
Yeah.
So don't be afraid. That's what everyone gets scared of, is the failures and looking embarrassed on the internet or looking dumb, whatever it is. You got to show your failures. That's the easiest.
No,
way.
it's true. I mean, that's the only reason. I mean, I think that's the only reason that I've gotten to where I'm at with my driving right now is that, you know, I did have failures last year and I talked about them and I'm happy to share them and I learned from them and other people can learn from them.
That's the drift community.
Right.
Go find that in drag racing. Fuck you.
It doesn't exist. It doesn't. I've been in other forms of motorsport a lot, and it doesn't. You know, the people are so careful with their secrets and their.
Yeah.
I mean, the idea of me going to borrow a gear set from someone, forget that.
Fuck off.
If we were at the drag strip and you know Tyler Berry was in a Nova or something, and he would have been like,
yeah, what the fuck?
yeah, like it's just not how it works. And so yeah, no, I think focusing on your failures even is a reasonable way to look at. I mean, I don't sit there and post, you know, oh, I suck on Instagram, but I'll say this is what went wrong.
Yeah,
this is what I could have done better.
And I think this is the solution.
Right. I mean, this is what went wrong. This is what we can do better. Here's how we're fixing it. See you next time. You know, I'll see you guys later. I'm gonna come back harder every single time. Like I battled for third place. I got lost in the smoke. I got gapped. I didn't have enough power. I had enough power, kind of, but I had to kind of hesitate in my run up and then therefore wasn't able to recover, whatever. There's things to be learned there to, you know, to do that differently to make sure that I can, you know, I'm not going to go into all of the details again, I guess, but I can learn from everything and I do.
Yeah.
And that's just all there is to it.
Yeah. I explained it in a very early episode. I have like I'm kind of a mechanical thinker is the way I explain it. But if you can learn the basics of anything, you have the ability to learn the entirety of it is the way I explain it.
Exactly.
Okay. So since you're kind of building a C6.
Kind of. Not started at all.
Well, going to build a C6. Anyways, like what do you think about Taylor Race Corvette? And do you think you're going to take some stuff from that and put it towards the C6?
Well, you know, I mean, I guess, in that it'll be kind of a, you know, a similar drivetrain, but as far as like transmission diff combo or whatever, but engine wise, no. I mean, he's got turbo.
Well, no, not engine wise, but the way like some things are routed, because he's very particular in like the way he mounts stuff.
Yeah. So honestly, if we do this C6 project, how, you know, we're trying to plan it, I'm not going to be really involved. Like I'm not going to have.
So you're basically just going to be the driver.
Yeah. Yeah, like I'm not going to have my hands on the car as much as I would maybe even like to. Like all of these cars that I've had before, I've either the engine work I've done myself. Put your creative nature into it. Right. I've put my own engines together. Even if I ask somebody for help or whatever, I've done that, and I've, you know, done all of my stuff. Really, this drivetrain swap was the first time that I've had somebody else like really working. Like Brennan really did a lot of work to make that transmission tunnel clearance, to make the shifter actually work, you know, cut. That's one thing we had to, like, you know, the shifter location is not the same as factory. So you have to
Where does it end up?
It's just farther left, basically. It's it's in the same hole, but to the left. So you have to cut it out. And we put a Race Quip SFI shift boot on it. So it's like fireproof and safe and everything. And he welded in new plates and stuff. It's pretty. You know, it looks like it was there.
Has he gotten a lot better at welding?
It looks good. It looks good. It looks, sick. I mean, it really does. I'm really impressed with his work. And that's, you know, but to be able to be in a position where I might really come hands off on the car is kind of nerve wracking, but really cool at the same time.
But it's kind of surreal at the same time.
Yeah. It's a weird, this is all a weird time for me, truthfully, because this is all I've ever wanted. I've only ever wanted to drive a race car, and now
it's hard to kind of believe it's real.
It's getting really close, you know. It's like it's in reach where like I could actually kind of do this. Like it's possible. And I'm not the greatest driver in the world or anything. I'm still not. I'm never gonna say that. I've taken the time to figure out what's needed to be done, and I'm doing it. And anybody can do it. I'm literally 100% confident that anybody could do it. And you know, you do have different levels of financial ability all across the board, but you can get the help. It's there. You just have to do the work to deserve it. You know,
Yeah,
like you
a lot of
can't
people
just
ain't
go
willing to put the effort
you
in.
can't just go ask for money and parts and whatever, and hey, sponsor me, I'll put stickers on your car or whatever.
Yeah.
It's just not how it works. It's just not. And
So if someone was to put a ideal proposal together to send to someone, or even just a generic template to kind of copy and paste, change some things, what would you say is the most important things to put inside of that?
You know, having a sponsored deck, having a media deck to actually send is vital. You can't just type up this is what I want.
That may sound very foreign to some people.
Right.
Explain
So
a media deck.
a media deck, you can look at it as almost like a PowerPoint presentation of yourself and your team. And it can be as short as 5 or 6 slides, so to speak, or it can be 10 or 15, depending on how much you really want to pack in there. I tend to be on the shorter side of that because I don't think that your marketing manager that you're sending that to cares about all the modifications on the car. Put a little asterisk, maybe, you know, full modification list available upon request, things like that. But the most important things to touch on are, you know, who are you as a driver? What's your resume in motorsport, so to speak? What type of a person are you in general? You know, a little bit, not just about how you are, you know, in a driving capacity, but are you a trustworthy person to partner with? Because that's a big thing. Are you going to ruin this company's reputation somewhere down the line because you're going to say the wrong thing?
Almost like a bank loan, dude.
Almost.
I mean, they got to be able to trust you with the money they're giving you.
Right. And well, not just the money, but their reputation too matters. And so, you know, information about yourself, information about your car, in that you want to show that your car can be there every time. You know, you want to show that you've done the work to make it a competitive, reliable car. You don't have to go and list out, I have this angle kit and I have this bushing and this, like, they don't want to see that, but they do want to know, you know, how much, you know, it's this liter V8 engine. It's this transmission. It's this whatever, you know, the basics like that. Kind of like, you know, if you were talking about your car to your aunt or uncle that doesn't know about the race car stuff. You want to talk about your team. You want to, you know, show that you have an organization that will support you, that will make sure that these funds are actually going somewhere, that, you know, that means something. Somebody's not just, you know, blowing up their organization a little bit bigger than it really is. That's something that I've seen where people will try to make themselves seem bigger than they are. And, you know, I'm not anybody when it comes to, you know, a fame or anything like that. And so it's important to not try and say that
shows that you don't have to be any big influencer or some shit to get sponsors. You just have to be in the public. They want to see that you're going to be showing off their brand a lot.
And more than showing off their brand, another thing that you should have in your deck is what return on that investment are they actually getting? It's not just showing off their brand. It shouldn't be, anyway.
Well, of course.
It should be, you know, how can you help increase their sales other than just a sticker and the eyes on the show or whatever like that? You know, are you going to create them content for their social media maybe that you could do as a collaborative post? Maybe it's a custom made video just for that company, just with a little clip of your car, but really focusing on informing about their company, about their products, instead of just marketing yourself on social media.
I see a lot of people will, like, they'll make a post that's kind of more or less just generic and I would say selfish, like selfish content, and they'll tag like tons of different companies.
Yeah, just tag them all in the caption. That's not what it is.
I made that mistake a long time ago. Whenever on Instagram, I would do that, and it would get nothing. So,
but you know, and that's not. It shouldn't end at social media though, and I think that's a thing that a lot of people are missing right now, because the world that we're in tells you that social media is all that matters, and whoever has the most followers and this and that. But you can do things like appearances at trade shows for that company. If that trade show has an opportunity to have a race car in their booth, they're going to get more traffic to their booth. And if it does become, well, you do have the stickers on your car, but you have to take the car to the place that's not your event, that may be a state out of the way, that maybe you have to put these kind of things in your proposal that you're willing to do to earn that money. If you're asking for money, you should work for it. And so, whatever you can come up with, it can be as creative as you can be. How are you going to earn that money? How are you going to return capital or not capital? How are you going to return value to that company for the value that they provided you? And when you look at all of the things that you have to do in your season, you have to make sure that you're not over-promising. You have to make sure that whatever you're obligating yourself to, you can actually perform and you can do your duties, or you're going to lose your deal.
Yeah.
And things as far as putting their branding in your publications. We're on Circle of Drift podcast right now. I've talked about Vortex Security today. Yeah. I've given their, vortexsecurityfl.com. You need to go check out their website.
I think it's nice to point out that it was more or less conversation. Right. It wasn't you trying to sell something on
we don't
camera,
have to
like
be constantly selling people something.
Yeah,
you don't have to be selling all the time, but just making sure that all of these avenues are being used. It's not just your social media. There's publications. There's team merch. In the proposal, you're going to add their logos to all of your shirts. There's all kinds of things that you put in there. But other than yourself, your team, what you're providing for return on investment, your schedule's important. Definitely want to have your schedule in there. Show them, here's where I'm going to be. It shows how much skin in the game you have, so to speak. If you're only going to an event that year, 1 or 2 events that year, why would you even need money? And some people say this is kind of the wrong thing to do. I mean, I've been told it's the wrong thing to do, but I disagree. I put a estimated expenses chart in my proposal of what I'm going to spend at each event, why I'm going to spend it, line item by line item.
Why would people say that's not smart?
Well, I mean, if you're sort of giving up your cards and showing how much money you're going to spend and then asking for a certain amount, it can go either way. I believe it's better to be transparent. I think that businesses more appreciate if you're transparent. I think it just creates a more higher level of accountability.
Yeah,
when you here's what I'm going to spend, here's what I'm asking for. Come to some agreement.
Yeah.
And then also it creates a good conversation with that company on when they see, wait a minute, you're going to use how many tires per event? You're like, wait, what? Hold on, and you get to educate more, and you get to further create value and show that your sport, and
and that helps them out in the future too when they're prospecting and stuff.
Yeah, and so just being but there again, it's important to be able to justify every one of your expenses. You can't just put together. All of this stuff takes time and effort to do it right. Just do it all right. Don't take the shortcuts. Don't take the easy ways. Spend weeks if you have to putting together this proposal, because it's worth a lot of money if you do it right. But other than that, I mean, you can find example proposals online. I know I certainly have glanced at a few to get some ideas. I mean, I've never, plagiarized anything from them, but you can see like, okay, well, they organized it this way. I like how they've added their, expense proposal at the top, or maybe, this one put it at the bottom after they've already talked about what all they're doing. So it makes more sense. And you can kind of figure out
the flow.
Yeah, figure out the flow. And then if you look at mine, it looks nothing like anyone else's, but I think it looks really good.
That's a good thing, because it'll stand out. And it'll get you remembered more.
Yeah. And high quality media. Really don't just use cell phone photos.
Nowadays it's kind of hard to get around. If you don't have high quality media, it's you're not going to get too far.
Yeah.
You'll pretty much cap out, I would say, unless you're like a fucking whistling diesel.
Well, yeah,
dude, his deleted channel, like the deleted videos. Have you ever seen that?
Honestly, man, I've only ever even seen probably 2 or 3 of his videos, and that was this past weekend. One of my crew guys was playing. Wow. He was driving a Ferrari, I think it was a 488 GTB or something like that, or maybe it was I don't know. It was in the woods.
Around all the time.
Well, he was driving it in the woods and in dirt and stuff, and I was like, I just don't really vibe with that kind of content. I don't really want to watch the destruction of a car like that. I don't care what it's for. I don't care.
His spare channel though, dude, he uploads in 720p.
Huh. That's interesting.
Yeah. I played one day because I was like, what the fuck? He has a second channel. And so I played one, and it was like complete shit quality. I was like, what the fuck? So I go over to the setting and try and bump it up. It's like, what the hell happened? And it's literally the highest quality you can go to is 720.
Wow.
I was damn, dog.
I didn't know that was even a thing people did anymore. Because you don't even film in 720. You'd have to downgrade it almost. But,
yeah.
But yeah, I don't think that there's really anything else that you have to have in those kind of things. But just look at some of those advantage, some of your advantages as what can you do differently? You know, what can you show this company that nobody else has before? And I promise you, it's not going to be where you're putting the sticker on your race car. Like that's not anything exciting.
Okay, fantastic. Besides that, so I did want to. Do you watch any of Taylor Ray? I know we talked about him a little bit.
I watch so little YouTube content during the season. When it's off season, I watch like everybody. I watch, I'll watch.
You follow him on Instagram by chance?
Definitely,
okay. Yeah. Did you see any of his tow rig breaking down? And
and he
my
ended up
God.
using someone else's manual Cummins and this.
Yeah.
Which he should have had
9
in the first
hours.
place. You know, I have a Cummins, and I'm just gonna say that's probably the truck to have. But
Did you hear any of his story on what happened?
Yeah.
Oh my God!
Unreal.
Fuck you, Ford.
Unreal.
I've never been a Ford fan, but goddamn.
So Ford recently kind of, I'm not going to go into that. My dad had an issue with some Ford stuff, I think, and it got figured out. But
yeah. I mean, I've worked in a dealership. Like, obviously, I can understand how they try and not cover with the warranty and stuff like that. It's sketchy, in my opinion.
Well, there's warranty stuff with Dodges too. I mean, whatever.
Yeah, that's everything by the book.
You can't get the right truck anymore, I don't think. I think you have to pick which problem you're willing to deal with. I really do. I think you have to figure out which of the truck's problems that you can stomach and just buy it.
Yeah. Which one's easiest for you to work on?
Yeah.
Or, I guess, cheapest to pay someone to work on. You can think of it that way, but...
I don't know. I'm just going to work on my truck.
I would
Diesel trucks are way too expensive to pay
someone
for.
Hell yeah. Well, give us one piece of advice, give to anyone just getting into drifting.
Oh, man. Golly, I can go so many different ways with that because that's probably the most common question that I get. You know, like, well, what do I need to do to get into drifting? I think I said a few things on the last episode that I've gone back and read the comments on, and I noted that people disagreed with me saying to not drift your only car or whatever. Mm-hmm. I'm going to double down on that though.
Gotcha, bitch.
It's if you're
go ahead and roast them in the comments again, baby.
But come on, guys, if you're gonna drift at a competitive level, not grassroots competitive, but like a licensing series or above,
dude, I would say even
car. I hurt my car.
If you
every
have
time.
I understand, like if because shit is very expensive now, so I will advocate for someone drifting their only car.
Yeah, for fun,
like,
totally.
Keep it
slay the track,
grassroots, whatever.
Carry an extra set of tires in the trunk and then switch them back to drive home.
Yeah,
totally.
I will say it is ideal to have a separate car,
right. And that's never what I meant when I said that before. To be clear, I never meant to get into drifting. Period. Yeah. Don't go drift your only car. To get into competition drifting, don't drift your only car.
Yeah,
don't,
motherfucker. Stupid.
But I mean, outside of that, just stick with it. It's a hard, long road. You can't just jump in and get your chassis put together and then go drive a competition. It's just takes time, takes years.
Expect to spend every waking moment trying to figure out how to afford the car. Jimmy Oaks said that in a video the other day when he was talking about
that's a good piece
his
of advice.
LS Z, because he brought that back out and did a video on it.
But I think also
very smart.
To counter that point, a good piece of advice would be don't just spend the money, because it's easy to start building your car and think that you need the next part and the next thing. You really just need the next bit of driving skill. Yeah. Most of the time it's just because if I look back, learn
to drive the car, stop throwing parts at it.
If I look back at how I drove my Vet last season in Pro-Am, and I look at the first lap I made this year, you could argue if nobody knew who was driving that it was a different driver. I swear to you.
Of course, yeah, that's how it should be.
Right. And so remember that. I'm still learning how to drive. We're all still learning how to drive. Mm-hmm. So you probably don't have to spend as much money as you think. That's
a great way to leave that.
Yeah.
I agree. Well, that's pretty much it for this one. I really appreciate you coming back on.
It's been fun.
I'm sure we'll do it again in the future. Let us know down in the comments if you guys want to see him on again in the future. Maybe next season, see what he's doing different. But
and make sure you come check out my Instagram at Cloud Motorsports. Check out my YouTube channel, also Cloud Motorsports. Going to be posting. I kind of focus on informative teaching how to get into drifting, what the expenses are. So maybe you watch a couple of those videos that it backs up my opinions a little bit, maybe a little bit. But
It'll be
anyway,
in the description.
yeah, I'm just here to help, guys. If you ever have any questions about drifting, about how to get into it, how to build your car, what I've done, what I would do differently, hit my DMs. I'm always going to answer. I'm always going to be honest.
He's fantastic with finances too. So
Yeah, if you want to know about real estate,
if you want to know
just
how to
hit me up,
make some extra money, maybe.
Want to buy a house? I'm a guy. Or sell one, especially. That's really what I'd like to do more. But I like the listings.
I'm sure. Yeah, I'm
it's
sure.
like it's harder to. It's like motorsports. It's harder to do, but if you do it really well, people are impressed, and I like that. I really do. But yeah,
He helped me.
I did.
That's how this place is.
It's true.
Here.
It's true. But yeah, no, I'm always happy to help. I really am. As a matter of fact, I want to help you. If you are getting into drifting, I want you to message me and ask me anything that you have. And if I don't have an answer, I promise you I know somebody that does.
Fucking right, son. Hell yeah. Well, thanks again, man.
Absolutely.
That's it for this one. See you guys next week. Peace. Hell fucking yeah.